The Chicago Bears might be heading into the 2025 season with a gaping hole at edge rusher, and the man they were counting on to fill it might not even be ready for Week 1. What happens if this defense shows up to opening day short-handed? And more importantly, why hasn't this front office done anything about it yet? If this kind of Bears coverage fires you up the way it fires us up, smash that like button, share this with a fellow Bears fan, and hit subscribe so you never miss a breakdown. Now let's get into it, because this situation at edge rusher is more urgent than most people realize. It all starts with Shemar Turner. The second-round pick from last year's draft was supposed to be a building block on this Bears defense. A player with real potential, someone the front office was genuinely excited about before disaster struck. He played in just 5 games in his rookie season, tore his ACL on October 26 against the Baltimore Ravens, and has been working his way back ever since. Head coach Ben Johnson was asked directly about Turner's status during mandatory minicamp this week, and his response raised more eyebrows than it settled. Johnson said, in effect, that this summer is going to be huge for Turner, that the focus is continuing to attack the rehab and hopefully getting into training camp at some point. Hopefully. At some point. That is not the language of a coaching staff that has a firm timeline in hand. Let's put the math together here. Turner almost certainly had his ACL surgery sometime around early to mid-November, once the swelling in his knee settled, standard procedure. That puts him at roughly 7 months post-surgery right now. For context, that's a similar timetable to what Dayo Odeyingbo was dealing with coming off his Achilles surgery. You don't expect a guy to be fully operational at 7 months out. You hope he can get into training camp at some point, get some reps, and build toward Week 1. But based on everything Ben Johnson said, there is no clear timetable. He might be ready for the opener. He might start the season on the physically unable to perform list. And that uncertainty is a massive problem. Here is the question you have to ask yourself right now: is it enough to enter a regular season with Montez Sweat, Austin Booker, Dayo Odeyingbo, who is healthy now but just returned from an Achilles, and Shemar Turner, who may or may not be available Week 1? Even in the best-case scenario where every single one of those players is available and contributing, you are still looking at 2 guys coming off serious injuries and a depth chart that does not inspire a lot of confidence. Daniel Hardy is a special teams contributor, not a starting caliber edge rusher. Beyond him, the cupboard is pretty bare. This brings us to the question of the day, and we want to see your answers in the comments below. Does this Bears front office have a responsibility to go out and add another edge rusher right now, or do you trust them to wait this out and see how training camp develops? Because here is the reality. Waiting is a strategy, but it is a risky one. There are still veterans available in free agency who could walk through that door and immediately improve this room. Let's run through some of the names that remain on the market as of right now. On the veteran free agent side, you have Javon Clowney, who turned in a productive season last year. Joey Bosa and Vaughn Miller are still available, though there is a significant drop-off in pass rush upside after that tear. Leonard Floyd, Hassan Reddick, and Kyle Van Noy lean more toward 3-4 edge archetypes, useful in a NASCAR package rushing role, but you are probably not deploying them heavily against the run. Cleveland Farrell is a bigger edge who fits schematically but is not the elite pass rusher this defense could use. Emmanuel Ogbah has lost a step or two in recent years. And then there is Derek Barnett, never been a star, but a bigger guy who fits the scheme and is still out there. And then there is the name that will get the most attention, Za'Darius Smith. The Philadelphia Eagles released him off the reserve retired list after signing A.J. Epineza, a player the Bears actually brought in for a visit a few weeks back. Smith retired following a 5-game stint in Philadelphia last year, but reports indicate he is open to returning for the right situation. He is only 33 years old. He has been productive at a high level for a long time in this league. And here is an interesting detail for Bears fans: Smith has played for every other team in the NFC North. Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit. The Bears would complete that full set. Whether that means anything or not, it is a fun footnote. Now, there have been questions about locker room fit when it comes to Smith. Certain rumors have followed him throughout his career, But the Bears heard similar noise about C.J. Gardner-Johnson before they brought him in last year, and that situation worked out exceptionally well. Every player, every situation is different. From a pure football standpoint, Smith would not cost a fortune at this stage of his career, and there would be no harm whatsoever in bringing him in for a visit, putting him through a workout, and seeing what he looks like. On the trade front, there are 3 names generating real buzz right now. Josh Sweat out of Arizona is probably the most intriguing. He is coming off a career year with 12 sacks and is widely believed to be unhappy with the Cardinals' situation, partly because his former defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon, who was a major reason Sweat signed in Arizona, was fired after 1 season. Sweat showed up for mandatory minicamp, likely just to avoid the fines, but the vibe around his long-term future there remains uncertain. If the Cardinals get a second-round pick offer, they are probably moving him. Would the Bears go that high? Probably not. A third-round pick seems like the more realistic opening bid. Whether Arizona accepts that is another question. Kayvon Thibodeau in New York is a longer-term situation. Early reports from the Giants' new coaching staff have been positive, and Abdul Carter, their first-round pick, is dealing with a minor ankle sprain. Thibodeau is not going anywhere right now. Realistically, this is more of a trade deadline conversation in October, especially if the Giants are struggling and looking toward a rebuild. He is playing out his 5th-year option, so the team has very little reason to commit to a long-term extension during the season. File him under. Circle back in November. And then there is Alex Highsmith in Pittsburgh. This one is genuinely interesting. The Steelers just signed T.J. Watt to a monster extension and followed that up by giving Nick Herbig a 4-year, $100 million contract. Highsmith has 2 years and roughly $35 million remaining on his current deal, and he is almost certainly going to want a raise given how consistent he has been. Are the Steelers really going to pay 3 edge rushers north of $20 million per year? That seems financially impractical. Highsmith is a bit leaner than the prototype defensive coordinator Dennis Allen typically covets. Allen tends to prefer bigger bodies in the 260-plus pound range, and Highsmith plays in the mid-240s. But he is an effective, reliable pass rusher, and that kind of consistency is hard to find. So if you had to pick one to land on the Bears right now, who is it? Drop your answer in the comments, JS for Josh Sweat, KT for Kayvon Thibodeau, or AH for Alex Highsmith. Let's see where the fan base stands. The bottom line is this. The Chicago Bears cannot afford to be complacent here. Shamar Turner's situation adds urgency to a position group that was already thin. Whether the front office moves now, waits until late August, or swings a trade as the preseason wraps up, one thing is crystal clear: this defense needs more pass rush help. For players with major question marks hanging over them is not a foundation you want to build a season on. The next move at this position will tell us a lot about how seriously this organization is taking its shot at competing in 2025. Stay locked in. If anything breaks on the Bears' edge rusher front, we will break it down immediately. Now go ahead and like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe so you are always first to know.